not remembering anything, blacking out on nights out, to being stone cold sober. I've been sober for about 2 years now, just over 2 years actually. So I started in Jan 2022, and yeah, going strong. Big drinking culture in Scotland. We produce whiskey. We're probably the best at producing whiskey, no offence anywhere else. Biased about that, even though I don't drink it, which is hilarious. So began drinking at 18. 18's the legal age in the UK. Oftentimes you will drink before that. Sort of naturally just fell into that. I always had the idea since a kid that I was going to be a cider drinker after listening to like the fantastic Mr. Fox audiobooks. Or I think one of the farmers only drinks really strong cider. So I thought, yeah, that's going to be me. But found cider was too sweet, moved on to beer. Wasn't quite attuned to beer's taste at 18, so moved to spirits. Went through a vodka phase as everyone does, and then slowly made my way onto rum and whiskey. So rum and whiskey were my drinks of choice. I was a big mojito fan, and since leaving uni, I got a job working for a rum company. So yeah, perfect. I'm a rum drinker working for a rum company, and worked there for a year. So went into loads of different pubs, clubs, restaurants around Scotland. What really was the turning points for me? Have you ever woke up after a big night out, not remembering absolutely anything that happened the night before? You've got an absolute stinking headache. Your mouth feels drier than a used sponge. Sick as a dog. You want nothing else apart from to crawl back into bed, sleep for 3 days, and get a pizza down you. I was struggling with my mental health really. I had this feeling of being stuck, and I didn't really know why. So I'm fortunate enough to speak to a counsellor, and they hinted at exercise being the thing that was missing from my routine, which shocked me because as a kid, I was naturally pretty sporty. I still am pretty sporty as well. So that really threw my whole identity off, which was interesting. When you're drinking and you're working a job that is constantly out and about Monday to Friday, you typically would work 9 to 5. You're out of the house the whole time. Then you would probably go for drinks on Friday, which meant a write off. Whole of Saturday I'd be in my bed, sleeping, watching Netflix, watching YouTube, doing nothing else. And then that puts a lot of pressure on the Sunday to be your day for exercise. And it's really easy to give up on that day based on how you're feeling. I was in the middle of doing dry Jan when I had this conversation as well, linked together. With dry Jan, I was able to get into more of a weekend routine where I could exercise on that Sunday reliably. I liked not having to drink at work. I liked not having to drink at every event, family event, friends event. And I really enjoyed that freedom the next day of being able to get up and run, and feeling pretty good. So dry Jan was a big help for me. Dry Jan, it gave me that added confidence to say no to drinks that I probably wouldn't have had without that excuse. So I'm really thankful for dry Jan. It's a great opportunity for people that might be sober curious to give it a go. By the end of Jan, I had decided that I really liked how things were going in terms of exercising more. I was getting the endorphins, the benefits from that was making me feel better, and that sort of gave me the idea of keeping this going as long as possible. But I needed an excuse, because the culture is so much about drinking, that I had to. I had to have an excuse. So I just said, "Oh well, I'm gonna see how long I can do. I'm gonna see if I can do a dry 2022." And people were kind of shocked by that, but they were like, "Oh yeah, like fair enough. He's tried dry Jan. He's gonna challenge himself and see if he could do a full year," which felt good. I had that excuse that I felt like I needed as well. in the beginning, that those first 3 months are really, really hard. I found them really hard. So from Jan to March, I found incredibly tough. The challenges that I faced, I think, were how do you adapt to social situations when everyone else is drinking? And to constantly explain to your social circle that you're not drinking, you're trying to go for that full year sober. Probably took me about 3 months to get round everyone and have that conversation. Maybe have it a couple of times where they go, "Oh yeah, you're not doing, yeah, you're doing that thing." So once you get over that 3 month period, I found it got a lot easier. So you're changing, going out. So you're often holding a drink in your hand where you're chatting to new people. That sort of social lubricant effect as well of the drink is something that you don't have. So you had to get used to either not having anything in your hands, or having like a soft drink that usually comes in a pint glass, and it makes it really obvious. My top tips for choosing a drink while sober is I was dead set on lemonade for ages. So lemonade's clear, looks like a vodka lemonade, which sort of helps you blend into that drinking culture kind of thing, even though you're not drinking. But I don't know if this is everyone, but I personally found that when you wake up after having eight or eight, nine, 10 glasses of lemonade throughout the night, you kind of feel not as bad as a hungover, but you definitely have that sugar crash, which was not nice. And you kind of forget how bad the hangover was. So that becomes your new hangover, is that sugar crash the next day. So moved on to soda limes. So soda and some lime cordial or some fresh lime if it's a fancy place. And that I've found has been my go-to drink now. Again, it looks like an alcoholic drink, so people are more at ease when they're chatting to you, because they're like, oh, they don't need to ask why are you not drinking, which would make them feel self-conscious about them drinking, which is good. So it avoids that. It's also tasty, less sugar than the lemonade anyway. So I quite like that as well, and you feel hydrated by the end of it. So yeah, you don't need as many of them as you will lemonades. Plenty of non-alcoholic beers and spirits at the moment. This is like a non-alcoholic mulled wine from IKEA as well. So loads of those options. I've not actually tried loads of them. I was never really a beer. Well, I kind of got off the beer before I became sober. So going back to that beer taste has only been something I've done now that I'm 2 years sober. And the taste is nice as some of the alcohol-free ones. Maybe I'll do a taste test of all the alcohol-free ones in a future video. Good excuse and tips if you want to try it as well. So dry Jan's a great one. Driving, just start to drive everywhere. If you drive, that's a good one as well. And then I found, instead of saying I'm not drinking straight up, if you go, I've got a rule where I don't drink on weekdays. That tends to go down better with people rather than just saying I'm not drinking. So maybe taking a rule where I don't drink for this a month before whatever is a good way to do it. But if you're better than that than me, then maybe you don't need the excuses. But I definitely did. Let's look at the benefits of being sober. So I've definitely had less embarrassing moments. I've been able to remember my nights out. I've been on a lot of sober nights out now. If it's compounding of not being absolute blackout drunk, having that anxiety, getting the exercise in as well. So compounding effects of exercise, anxiety. There's something to do with stress when you drink as well. So I think it's on the Huberman, actually. See if you listen to the Huberman alcohol pod. He'll tell you a lot more facts than I will about alcohol. So yeah, worth a listen to that one as well. You also have an absolute shit more time. See those days when you are spent in bed, you now have that completely free. And if you wake up in a normal schedule, you've got a full morning that you've never had before, since you were 18, as well. So I found that quite interesting. Like, what the hell do you do on a Saturday morning when everyone else is in bed? So again, good excuse to try some new habits. some creative stuff as well. So painting, stuff like that. I've got right into that recently. Um, Relationships get better. I think that's probably one that I probably need to talk about a bit more in. A lot of the initial dates revolved around drink for me before I went sober. So having like that one cocktail gets you both talking, but that alters your decision making as well. So sober dating I found a lot more beneficial because I knew if I liked the person or not. I wasn't confused by alcohol, which I think a lot of people have said um, when I've listened to podcasts and stuff like that as well. So that one's good, but it does make dating harder. A lot of people were just like, no, it's not for me. I enjoy drinking. I want someone that can drink with me, especially on like holidays, meals, and stuff like that. Which is fair enough. Each their own. So yeah, it does make dating harder, but I think more beneficial if you can find the person that agrees to deal with your craziness. Everyone's crazy, so being sober is also crazy. 2 years, and I think I'm going for that number three. It has genuinely been a life changing experience for me, which I don't think I'd say. Um, there's definitely ups and downs. That first 3 months is definitely really tricky. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll let you get on. Leave a like, comments in the description below, and I'll see you in the next one.